Welcome back to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit and digital resource, helping the organizations in our community survive and thrive. We'll tell the nonprofit story to our community. Welcome back. We have with us the Kansas City Art Institute with a very exciting effort that's going on. We have Randy Williams, who's the Senior Director of Corporate Programs. That is a hefty title.
Well, thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
We're delighted to have you. And we have a veteran. We have Reverend Doc Golden, who is part of this exciting exhibit that you all have been the movers of. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. I want to start with KCAI. For folks, let's just refresh their memory. Kansas City Art Institute, what's it all about?
Kansas City Art Institute is a 4-year degree program, private college of art and design located right here in Kansas City. We have approximately 650 students that are pursuing one of 14 different degrees that we offer in the arts and the design industries.
And that's from painting to...
It's from painting and sculpture on the fine arts side to what I refer to as more the applied arts and graphic design, illustration, animation, and everything in between. And starting next year, we're going to be offering a degree in product design as well. So.
Oh, how cool. Now, would that mean people will get to use those three-dimensional...
We're already using them.
How exciting.
3D printers, laser cutters, digital looms for our fiber students. It's a very exciting place to be.
We'll have to come down and capture some video of that. That would be really exciting to watch.
We'd love
something
to have you.
Come out and be three-dimensional from somebody's idea in their mind. You're working on a really cool exhibit that's been in Kansas City for like a minute, but it's coming back, and that is this new Veterans Reflection Exhibition.
Correct.
Did I get the name right?
You got it
correct.
correct.
Good. Tell us what that is, and then we're going to get to Doc.
It's actually part of a bigger program known as Sponsored Studio, where we work with the business community and civic organizations to take on creative projects in the classroom. So it gives our students to learn how to work with a client, to have an opportunity to take on a real-life project and develop it as a team in the classroom. So we have done a number of these projects around the city. Some of the more recent ones includes a 14-foot by 40-foot mural that was installed at the Kansas City Zoo in their new Stingray Touch Tank exhibit.
Wow.
When the streetcar opened in Kansas City a few years ago, we were asked to create the grand opening poster that was used for the streetcar. Many people, I'm sure, saw that around town. And then we're currently working on a project with the Kansas City Royals, which most people think it would be something in the stadium, but it's not. It has to do with their development program of training future professional baseball players in the Dominican Republic, where they are scouting and bringing young talent into their camp in the Dominican at the age of 16. And they educate them, they train them, and so on. The students and the athletes live on campus for 9 months out of the year down there.
My goodness.
And so as part of the education program, they ask us to create some animated short programs to help those young athletes learn about skills that they will need when they transition to the United States.
So will this be a video or a...
It's short video animation programs.
And you're in process with that right now?
Yes.
When's it going to be done?
Well, it's an ongoing program it'll go over several years, most likely, because we'll do a few each year and keep developing a repository of these skill sets that will be taught to the athletes in the camp.
We would love to share them.
We can talk about that later.
We'll talk to our friends
But
at the
today
Royals.
we want to talk
But
about
now we're going to talk about this Veterans Project. Bring Doc into this.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about how this came about and what it's ended up being.
Certainly. Our friends at Humana here in town called us and said they were working on this special project that they were doing with local veterans to help with some health issues, primarily those dealing with issues around loneliness and isolation and PTSD and so on. And they said they wanted to come up with an exhibit that would bring some of these issues to light, that they could share with the business community or the community in general, and not only here in Kansas City, but around the country. So they asked us to interview 14 veterans And we have a class known as the Micro Agency, which is in our illustration program. The 14 students in that class interviewed veterans, recorded their stories, and then painted their portraits. So the portraits, which are part of this exhibit, also include a QR code on the easel that you can scan with a phone and listen to the recorded interview with the veteran where they tell their own story in their own words. It's frankly a very moving and exceptional exhibit.
And Doc, you're
And
one of
Doc is one of
you're
them.
one of the 14.
Wow.
Well,
I
thank
was-
you for your service, first of all.
You were worth it.
Oh, thank you.
You were worth
you.
it. And
So
this
tell-
is what I tell people today. You were worth it. I ended up on Skid Row while I was on active duty. I had a difficult marriage that ended in divorce, and I had 2 kids. I came home from Vietnam, and we were bankrupt. And we lived on Skid Row, and I was dealing with a real heavy alcohol problem. I recovered in 1973, and in the last 45 years, for a long time, I didn't want anybody to know I was in the military. It wasn't until about 15 years ago that I was able to begin dealing with and starting to fight with the government. Half my service record was missing, all the good parts. The fire of '73 in St. Louis, I said, they told some guy that had got out of the military in 1995 the same thing, that his record was burnt in '73. He wasn't even there in '73. But long story short, I came to a place in my life where it was important for me to tell my story. And it began in 2010 when we had the Wall That Heals in Blue Springs, where I live. In fact, we're neighbors. And
Aha, there's the connection.
well, actually, we didn't even meet until I came. I knew him when I walked into the Art Institute. I knew that I had seen this man somewhere before, but I meet so many people. But when we had the Wall That Heals in 2010, there were a lot of memorabilia left over, maps, pins, medallions, and things for people who had been in the Vietnam War. And I began sending some of those to people I knew who had lost their loved one, and it started the Heroes at Home program, which is part of my work with Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 317. I'm their chaplain. And I was actually involved in another photo project it's called Hope 22 Kansas City. You may have heard of it. 22 veterans a day committing suicide. And they took 22 of us and did photo portraits. And they did a bio sketch at the bottom, a written one. And that's actually riding around the country right now. And from that, we were in the VFW convention for a week. The 22 portraits were hanging there, and 6 of us were selected for this project, probably because we knew people. But I've told my veterans many times when I speak at our post, at our chapter, that if we don't tell our story, nobody's going to know.
Right, it'll be lost.
2% of us put on a uniform and went to war. The other 98% have no idea what we did or why we did it. Some of us weren't sure why we did it, but we did what we were told to do. We went where we were told to do, and we did what they told us to do. And my enlistment contract doesn't expire. I couldn't finish my 20 years. I went on my 17th birthday, and because of all the situations, I had to get out after 10 years. So I have completed a little over 30,000 hours of service in chaplaincy to police, fire, and military in the last 25 years.
Tell me about sitting down with the student and the interview, and then I'd like to hear what you think of your portrait.
This was amazing. I have to first tell you how grateful I am to see people taking interest in us. A short time ago, I was at the Humana office in Gladstone, and they were pinning. They pinned 40 veterans that day. With the Department of Defense came out with a 50-year pin for Vietnam veterans. And I, being the chaplain, they asked me to do the invocation, benediction, and Chuck Hagermeister, who is a Medal of Honor recipient, lives over in Leawood, came over and pinned everybody. And of course, I have 200 of these in a box. I'm giving them away. I said, I've got some, but I want that one. And Chuck pinned me.
There you go.
And I kind of got to know the people at Humana, and I really felt their heart. I know they're in business to make money. That's a given. but I really sensed that they cared. And so when I was asked to be part of this project, it was a no-brainer. It was like, yeah, I got to do this. So I go in and I sit down, and there's two young ladies interviewing me, and we're just talking away, and pretty soon they said, your time's up.
Can't imagine.
Yeah.
You'd have a hard time talking.
Well, I've worked on that a lot. I've had some therapy, and they told me you don't get rid of the butterflies, you just make them go in formation. So anyway,
I love it.
Then they said, well, we're going to do this. We're going to do some sort of a portrait, and we don't know what it's going to be. It might be digital, it might be oil, it might be a hand drawing. We don't know. So I really wasn't sure what to expect. When I walked in the room yesterday, I looked around, and first I said, I don't think I'm in here.
But you found yourself.
Some of the, if you look at some of these are very,
we'll have
very
a picture.
descriptive.
We'll be sure.
But you can see from the brochure, some of those are very much like Kira, for instance. That is exactly who she is. They did a wonderful portrait. She's a good friend of mine, and they did a wonderful job on her as well. See, over here is this guy who's different colors. I didn't know my jaws had slumped that much. But it's surrealistic, so it wasn't exactly like a picture, wasn't. But I really enjoyed the fact that somebody used their creative energy to express something about my service, and I'm humbled beyond tears to be part of this. And the one big disappointment for me is the artists weren't there, and I didn't get to meet her.
I bet you'll get to meet them.
But
I think that's in your future.
I did get a chance. One of the other, Kirsten her picture is right next to mine anyway. She sent me a picture of my artist. So apparently the artist was there today and standing in between our two pictures, and she just sent me a snapshot. So I know what she looks like, and I've got her name because I took a picture of the little plaque down below. But the fact that more people are interested in what happened with us, it's very healing. I just got back from the honor flight, the Heartland honor flight to Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago. Well, actually, it happened April 30th, but we had our reunion here a couple weeks ago. And we also had our pre-flight here, so love this library. And so I am just celebrating my military career like I've never done it before.
In an artistic way. What a wonderful thing for your students, many of whom, they certainly weren't born in the Vietnam era. What, as an artist, as an educator, what is the value of having that kind of relationship?
The day that the interviews took place was an amazing experience, even for me, just being in the room, because you had a veteran and a student artist that went into the recording room not knowing each other, and they came out either laughing and hugging or somewhere in tears because the stories were so meaningful to each other. They created a bond, right there during that short 15-minute interview. And some, exchanged email addresses and phone numbers, and they've stayed in contact in many cases. And so we'll make sure you get back in touch with your artist.
Oh, I definitely, I need to do that. Yeah. One of the things that happened on the honor flight was we had mail call. Now you'll have to understand, when I came home from Vietnam, I was on a C-130 that I'd been riding for 26 hours. If you don't know what a C-130 is, it's the noisiest, nastiest airplane you can
They're
pick
not comfortable.
Right. Well, sitting on the cargo net seat for 26 hours from Clark Air Force Base to Dover, Delaware, via Yokota, Japan, and Elmendorf, Alaska. Anyway, nobody was there, and there was no mail. There were 3,000 people at the airport, and we got letters from children from schools all over the place.
Well, and now this is a permanent, a permanent representation. It's going to travel. It's going to come back to Kansas City in August. It's going to be at the Humana offices, and we'll be sure to put that on our Facebook and our social media so folks can go and they can see you.
I have
Kind of an
2,700
assortment of
friends
you.
on Facebook that are going to see this. I actually got a copy. I have a copy. I wish that I brought it. It's in the car.
That's okay. We will get an image and we will
But I
share
have
and
a
tell
copy
it.
of it, and it's going on my Facebook page, and it's going to go where I go. I do a lot of talks for
So look for Doc
veterans.
Golden.
Yep.
And look for kcia.edu. And another website you can check for when it's coming back is Kansas City boldgoal.com. It will have information about when this will be here. Thank you both for being here. And it's so great that the Art Institute is seizing people when sometimes we think art is removed. So thank you so much for both of you being here.
Well, this brought so many different people from so many different places in life together. It was amazing.
We'll be back after this.